Why would a farmer plant a crop that he knows is going to fail? And why would an insurance company sell him a policy that pays the claim when the crop they know is going to fail does just that? And beyond that, why are you paying the bill? To find out, we went to southwest Oklahoma on the edge of the old Dust Bowl, where there is little water to irrigate crops, and summer temperatures often rise to over 100 degrees. Now, this is not a great place to grow corn.
Corn's never been a viable crop that I could see.
Joe Kelly is a successful farmer here. He grows cotton and wheat.
The reason I don't grow corn in this country is because corn won't grow in this country. I don't raise pineapples here either.
So it was with some bewilderment that folks here began to see seas of green corn suddenly sprouting in Tillman County, Oklahoma. Acres and acres of it. And what ultimately happened to that corn was predictable.
It all died, most of it. To what I could observe, I've driven through there in July and it's rattling, it's already dead because it's too hot here and too dry.
The corn crop was dying, but that didn't bother the farmers, thanks to the taxpayer-funded federal crop insurance program, which is largely run by private insurance companies. In 1998, the U.S. Department of Agriculture made the mistake of authorizing the insurance of corn crops in Tillman County. And insurance agents wasted no time in selling corn crop insurance policies to debt-ridden farmers there.
In my opinion, the reason they was growing corn was to collect an insurance check.
David Lingle, who runs the local cotton gin, says an elderly farmer admitted building a new barn with the money he got from the insurance company.
He planted corn and built a barn with the money he made off his corn.
Did he sell his corn?
No, he didn't raise it. His burned up. I mean, it wasn't nothing out there.
And yet?
He got paid.
He got paid the crop insurance.
Right.
Roger Villadero, the Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, has often criticized how the USDA and the private crop insurance companies, there are now 20 of them, run the program. In 2 years, that county, Tillman County, went from planting 500 acres of corn to over 130,000 acres. And much of it was never harvested. And you know and I know why they did it.
I don't think anybody's going to argue the point.
They're putting seeds in the ground sometimes when they know darn well it's not going to work. In other words, the crop is not going to come up.
Absolutely.
But that's no problem for the private insurance companies because the rules of the program let them pass off many of the riskiest policies to the U.S. government to pay the claims. In Tillman County, for example, USDA estimates that more than 80% of the farmers' claims were paid by the U.S. taxpayers. Ken Cook runs an environmental watchdog group that keeps an eye on agricultural issues, including crop insurance.
Remember, when this crop insurance agent comes to your door to sell you the policy, he's not worried about the losses that his own company might incur. There won't be any. The riskiest policies are transferred directly to the government. So even though a private company sells the policy, the claim is paid by you and me and the rest of us taxpayers.
Well, who determines what the riskiest policies are?
That's the beauty of this. The companies get to decide which policies they'll hold on to. If they think a policy is too risky, they can shift that over to the government to pay the claim.
This opportunity to cherry pick what they want and pass on much of what they don't want to the taxpayers has proven to be a financial windfall for the insurance companies, according to Bob Odom, Louisiana's Agriculture Commissioner.
If you look at the numbers, the crop insurance people are getting most of the money.
I buy a life insurance policy from a private insurance company, pay a premium, and then when I die, my family gets the money. They don't get it from the government, they don't get it from anybody else, they get it from the private insurance company, right?
Right.
Doesn't work that way with the farmer?
Doesn't work that way with the farmer.
So the insurance company never loses.
Very seldom.
I don't understand why.
I don't understand why either.
The answer, Ken Cook says, is obvious.
They've spent millions of dollars in campaign contributions, and particularly since the mid-1990s, millions of dollars lobbying to arrange this deal. And there hasn't been much scrutiny, very little media attention. They've gotten away with it, and it's very sweet.
To try to get a response, we sought interviews with 4 of the insurance companies, Rain and Hail, Rural Community, American Agrisurance, and Fireman's Fund. Together, they sell about 2/3 of the federal crop insurance. But none of the companies would agree to talk to us. Instead, two of them directed us to Bob Parkerson, who runs their trade group called National Crop Insurance Services. We went down to Tillman County in Oklahoma. Folks down there told us that crop insurance agents, your people, started calling farmers, urging them, in effect, to plant corn because they were bound to get insurance checks. Why would insurance agents encourage farmers to plant corn that they had to know was going to fail?
Mr. Wallace, that sounds like something that we would really have to take a look at. I do know that corn did fail in Tillman County.
Tillman County, he insists, is an exception rather than the rule.
First of all, the program works in about 30 or 3,000 counties, and it works well. There are going to be counties that have a
Works
problem.
well for whom?
Works well for the farmers.
But many farmers don't think so, and Parkerson should know that. For just last year, one of his industry's own newsletters reported that unhappy farmers were complaining to Congress that, quote, agents and companies are making too much money. The newsletter called it a major public relations problem. Now, why should they be saying that if what you say is true?
It's important to understand the program and how insurance works.
And how does it work?
We might make $1 one year, but we can pay out a lot of dollars in the next year.
Well, that may be so, but since 1990, the private crop insurers have made more than $1 billion from the program. Meanwhile, the taxpayers lost more than $1 billion on policies that got passed on to them to pay.
Well, we don't know exactly how much is the profit because when my organization filed a Freedom of Information Act request to find out how much each company was making, we were denied that information. They wouldn't tell us how much taxpayer money was going to each and every company. Why? They said it was confidential business information.
The crop insurance industry's prosperity is reflected in a 1997 report by the General Accounting Office, which questioned industry expenses like private jets, executive bonuses, a stadium skybox, child care, pet care, even $17,000 worth of chocolates.
How much for chocolate candy?
$17,000.
$17,000. Those weren't charged to the taxpayer, those dollars.
But the GAO says they were. USDA Inspector General Roger Villadero also finds fault with lenient insurance adjusters who hand out taxpayer money to farmers who deliberately fail to raise a crop.
Farming communities are small, okay? If you have a lenient adjuster,
You're going to try to get that lenient adjuster,
absolutely.
and maybe you'll even buy him a piece of pie on Saturday night or something of the sort.
Well, he should probably buy you a piece of pie. Because he gets what? He gets repeat business. And the effect of this is taking business away from other sales agents and other adjusters who are, quite honest, above board.
Silas Ragsdale, who sells crop insurance in Childress, Texas, says that's what's happened to him.
I lost business because my company stuck to the guidelines and rules as they're written. The other company decided that they would have a more liberal interpretation of those rules and guidelines.
To show us what insurance agents who aren't so liberal are up against, Ragsdale took us to a strip of land between two farms where he says one farmer makes money growing crops and the other makes money on insurance thanks to a generous claims adjuster.
The land is the same, the soil type is the same, the rain is the same. So there's no excuse for this fellow over here not to make the same crop as the man on the other side. But they choose not to.
And USDA records we obtained through the Freedom of Information Act bear out what Mr. Ragsdale said. For example, in Jackson County, Oklahoma, we found numerous instances where insurance adjusters paid damage claims on cotton and sorghum, a type of grain. Claims that should have been denied because the farmers had not followed proper farming practices.
I think until the insurance company stands some of the loss, that there's going to be problems with it.
Inspector General Villadero agrees. In a report to the Secretary of Agriculture, he wrote, quote, because the companies incur minimal costs from losses, they have little reason to effectively monitor risky policyholders. Little reason to deny claims of questionable losses, and no cause to find fault with their own practices.
This is an area that needs a lot of attention and a lot of review. None of this is allowed to happen without the concurrence, without the approval of the people in charge of this program at USDA.
But until the federal government does something about it, insurers will have little trouble finding desperate farmers willing to plant high-risk crops that may never come up.
Not making a crop look pretty attractive to them, especially if they needed cash flow. And most farmers need cash flow. It's tough right now with the commodity prices the way they are.
Farmers used to have a lot of pride. Every man has a lot of pride when he brings a product in and you can see the end results of what he's brought. They're being hammered, belittled. They bring products in, they can't sell them.
And they don't particularly like making their living from crop insurance instead of crops.
No, they don't. They hate it.
Well, like it or not, honest farmers in Texas and Oklahoma are glad they had insurance last summer because one of the worst droughts of the century destroyed many of their crops. At least you didn't see a lot of corn planted in Tillman County last spring because the USDA had stopped the generous payouts. But there was a new insurance crop last year, peanuts. And in many sections of Tillman County, peanuts don't grow any better than corn. So what happened? Crop insurance companies paid out over $2,800,000 for failed peanut crops in Tillman County, just that one county, even though the Agriculture Department told us they found more than 60% of those payments questionable. Their word.